Why can't I talk tonight? Why can't I talk tonight? Why do I keep talking about it? Obviously you know it's about November because the video is called Nonfiction November. Hi everyone, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse. Today's video is not quite a TBR for Nonfiction November, but more of a list of some books that I maybe might read in November. So Nonfiction November was started by Olive at a Book Olive, and I will link her video down below. This is the 5th year that she's doing Nonfiction November, and it's a pretty loose readathon in the sense that it's really just to challenge you to read more nonfiction books than you normally would read. And then she has 4 one-word challenges, I guess kind of like inspiration if you want to take it to the next level, she said. So I didn't specifically pick out books to align with these letters, or these words, but at the same time I think they do. So the words are, I'm looking, design, sport, true, voice. So I would say do with that what you will. And for me, I'm doing National Novel Writing Month for November, which is, I will link my video to that as well. But basically it is a challenge to write 50,000 words in 30 days towards your next novel, story, what have you. You can do screenwriting, you can do anything, but it's really a gathering online of writers all around the globe who are challenging themselves and committing to this writing challenge. So for me, I do expect to spend hopefully almost every single day, if not every single day, writing something towards my next writing project. And that means I'm definitely going to be reading a lot less, because typically I try and read on my commute and I take the train, so don't worry. I'm going to be writing instead. And I also tend to read before I go to bed at night when I can, so we'll see where I'm at with my word count. And then weekends are going to kind of be a free-for-all, depending on where I'm at, again, with my word count. And then also things like work and life that need to fit into this month as well. And for those of us in the US, there's Thanksgiving. So it's a busy month and there's a lot going on. But since I am a writer of thrillers, mystery, suspense, I also suspect that I'm going to be reading less of those books because I'm trying to keep a clear head and not unintentionally start picking up voice or other things from writers that I'm reading, and I'm trying to just kind of stay focused on my own story. So I expect that I'm going to read more contemporary or nonfiction or just sort of non-thrillery-esque things. So I pulled a few books off my shelf, which are books that I have wanted to read and haven't, which is why they're here. And I thought I would just go through a couple of those for you guys today. So if you guys have been following me for a while, you know I don't really read a ton of nonfiction, and I don't have anything against it. I just don't gravitate towards it a lot of the time. But I have dipped my toe in the pool this year, and I have read some really good books. And so a few that I have, the first one, which I had created a list, so I don't make TBRs, of 13 books that I wanted to read this year, which I had pulled off my shelf, which are books that I regard with some kind of affection. And it might have been a book that I read at a certain time in my life, or a book that I've read multiple times in my life, but there's something about all of these books that I really loved. But I also hadn't reread a lot of them in years. So I want to say I reread 6 of them. I kind of just got off track this summer. But one of the books is the only nonfiction on the list, is called Drinking: A Love Story by Carolyn Knapp. And Carolyn Knapp used to be a journalist for the Boston Phoenix. And I used to read the Boston Phoenix when I went to school in Boston. It was sort of like the be-all, end-all, just lived for that paper and lived for her column, which was funny and snarky and smart. And as a journalism major, she wrote the kind of stories, you know, in pieces and voice that I wanted to write. So there's that word, voice. But I haven't reread this in forever. And I remember her writing, you know, some much more longer and serious pieces in the Phoenix also. But this is, as you can guess, a story about her battle with alcoholism. And she did wind up passing away. I don't remember when. but I really enjoyed this book at the time, and I think it's because I respected her so much as a journalist and as a writer, and I would like to get back into this book and just sort of see, you know, do I remember it the same way? I do have some pages that are dog-eared in it, of course, but I remember it being a very powerful book and a very difficult book, but also just a beautifully written book. And I think there was a real honesty and authenticity in her writing, and that definitely showed through in this book. The next book I have in the interest of writing is called Save the Cat Writes a Novel. And this was originally a screenwriting book called Save the Cat by somebody. It's on the front cover. So it's based on the book series by Blake Snyder, and Jessica Brody wrote this book. And this is, you know, it's dubbed the last book on novel writing you'll ever read. But basically the original book about screenwriting is about the 3-act structure, which exists in every movie and in every story, and it helps you write a great book. So I bought this an embarrassing long time ago, and I never read it. So I am desperately in need of some guidance on, again, especially writing a thriller, about how to craft the story, how to make sure you've got that constant tension, that you're moving at a fast clip, that people are going to keep turning the pages, that your story is tight and things are happening and there's nothing but the essentials in it. So at some stage or another, I'm definitely going to read this book, but what better time to read it than during National Novel Writing Month? If you're looking for some other writing inspiration, so other great books which I actually have read are On Writing by Stephen King is a great one. Bird by Bird by Annie Lamott is great. The Forest for the Trees by Betsy Lerner is great. There's so many wonderful writing inspiration books out there. And then I've read tons of books on craft. So I mean, depending on what it is you're trying to write, whether it is thriller or sci-fi, memoir, there's so many great books out there. So seriously, if you just like go to a bookstore and go to the reference section, or go online and find some stuff. But I find great help through reading both inspirational writing books and also through reading craft books, because I feel like sometimes, like, again, like you can't see the forest for the trees. It helps to read something even though you know it, but maybe it's buried down somewhere, or you just kind of can't get out of your own way. And then also to hear a new perspective, or to hear the honest truth, which is, you know, there is no magic bullet. There is no secret to all of this. The secret is you sit down and you write and you work on your craft, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. So I just like reading these books because I like, I don't have any writer friends in real life. So none of my friends are writers. So, you know, there's online communities, and NaNoWriMo is one of the best ones, but it's great to hear the words from someone who understands what you're going through and who's been there as well. So I feel like a real connection to these books, even though I'm not talking to these people like at conferences and other things, but it's really great to just sort of read something from the perspective of someone who feels the way that I do, good, bad, or otherwise, struggles, all of it. So I'd love to dip my toe in writing books whenever I can, even though I haven't in a long time. This is definitely like a craft book, but I imagine there's also some good inspiration in it. Next up is one that I'm also embarrassed that I haven't read, and that's Becoming by Michelle Obama. And I bought this book for my mom for Christmas last year, and she read it immediately and gave it to me not long afterwards. And yes, it's October of the following year, and I haven't read it, which is embarrassing, and no excuse, no reason why not. I know it's going to be amazing. I've heard nothing but amazing things about it. I think she is such a force. Again, you talk about a voice in so many ways. I just think she's extremely inspirational. I think what, you know, she did in the White House, and her and Barack Obama together, and everything that she's done since, and just a force, and you know, someone for girls to look up to and for women to look up to, and just, you know, what a great role model in all ways, as a mother, as a leader, as a lawyer, just force to be reckoned with, absolutely. So I will for sure be getting to this book at some stage of the game. The next book I have is called Reasons to Stay Alive by Matt Haig. And this is a book I had picked up at Book Outlet not too long ago. So actually I haven't had this one for too long, but I'd heard about it for a while and then came across it. I don't even know why or how. I don't even remember. Doesn't matter. But I have not read any of his novels, and this is sort of self-help memoir about his journey with depression. He had contemplated suicide and was able to get help and battle through to the other side, so to speak. And it sounds like a very... I'm imagining there's going to be a very gut-wrenching moments to this book and very difficult moments to this book. And you know, he talks about, so at age 24, you know, paralyzed by his depression, years of struggle. And he writes to remind us that however low we might sink, the bottom of the valley never provides the clearest view. Time does heal, and there really is light at the end of the tunnel. So I imagine this is going to be a little bit of sort of hopefulness and a little bit of encouragement and, excuse me, you know, really talking about some really difficult subjects with depression and suicide and anxiety and all of it. So I'm curious to read it. Like I said, I've heard a lot of really good things about it. It's a shorter book. It looks like little vignettes that he talks through. I just saw a chapter where it says how to be there for someone with anxiety and depression. So I think even if you are not someone who suffers from it, if you have people in your life who suffer from it and you're curious to learn more about what they're battling and maybe get a better understanding of what they're going through, this might be a good book kind of for everyone, regardless of which side of the disease you are sitting on, or if you have experienced, you know, any sort of feelings. This seems like it might be an interesting read. So stay tuned because I will let you guys know about this one. And the last physical book that I have, which I have also had for an eternity, and I have no reason why I haven't read this one either, and it's Lips Unsealed by Belinda Carlisle. And if you don't know, she was the lead singer of the Go-Go's, and I was and am a hardcore Go-Go's fan. And I was really, really young when I discovered them, so I think there was a lot that I completely didn't understand that was going on behind the scenes at the time. And she had like a 30-year battle with alcoholism and drugs. Sounds like a roller coaster, very rocky road. And the Go-Go's started, I want to say like in the mid-late 70s, but she was definitely a part of the punk scene out in LA. They were huge on the scene in the 80s, and I am secretly hoping there's some insider stuff, you know, kind of scandal, E! True Hollywood Story type, behind the music type stuff going on in this book. But I loved them so, so much. And I was such a fan of Belinda Carlisle, like hardcore. I would like bring pictures of her to the hairdresser when I was a kid because I wanted my hair like her when she had like that super short hair. Between her and Siobhan Fahey from Bananarama, like I totally wanted to be these women. Mind you, I was like short, chubby, young, brown hair, just nothing like these ladies. But I definitely thought that like a haircut could change my life, and maybe if I can find one of those pictures and they're not too embarrassing, maybe I'll post it, but maybe I won't. We'll see. But like I said, a huge fan. I'm like, I can't really say I'm on like a rock and roll memoir kick because I haven't actually read any of them, but I've talked about it. But since Daisy Jones and the Six and then my California Fleetwood Mac thing, I definitely am feeling kind of like rock and roll memoir-y. So I know Hoopla also has audiobooks. It has Stevie Nicks. I want to say it's called Gold Dust Woman, which I would love to listen to. It has Travis Barker from Blink-182. It has his memoir on there. I also saw Last Night at the Viper Room, which I suspect, I don't know if it solely focuses on River Phoenix, but I think it's mostly about River Phoenix's death at the Viper Room. And I realize this sounds really morbid that I'm talking about these books. I'm sort of fascinated with Hollywood and these memoirs, like I said, and kind of this behind the scenes. And I was so young when all of this stuff was going on that I really didn't understand any of the partying and the drugs and the drinking and all that went into what was going on. And I'm just sort of curious to hear. And again, huge fan of the music, huge fan of her, happy that she's out. I shouldn't say out, happy that she's still out and about. I know the Go-Go's did like some reunion tours. I feel like they're still doing some, but love her. Love her so much. So this is the book that I might pick up. I also imagine a lot of these books, this one's not too long, it's like 250 pages, might be fast reads. And again, because I am planning to be writing for the month of November, these are books that I can definitely dip in and out of without having to remember plot and characters and names and all sorts of stuff. And I talked about in my last video, I was getting like super confused trying to do the ebook of Truly Devious and Rules for Vanishing, which is incredible, like horror, messed up, love it. But I found myself like flipping forwards and backwards, and there's so much to keep track of because there's just such twisty stories. So it will be good to live in a little bit of reality for a little bit. So those are kind of my plans, but I'm feeling like I need a little bit of like a Hollywood fix, a rock star. So that does it for my short little list of nonfiction books that I may or may not pick up, depending on where I'm at with writing and, you know me, moody, what I feel like reading. But let me know if you guys are participating at all in Nonfiction November, what you're reading, if there's any chance. I feel like the Michelle Obama book people, there's a chance that you guys have read, but the other ones I realize are a little bit more obscure. But if you have read any of them, definitely let me know. And yeah. So that's my video about Nonfiction November. I hope you guys are having a great day. Thanks so much for watching and hanging out, and I will see you really soon. Bye, guys.